Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Golden Africa and welcome to those who are new here. My name is Murungi Sarah and thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me. In studio today, we have a guest. You can already see who he is. But what you don't know is how we relate to each other. Malik is my ex-boss. And I know a lot of people don't have the luxury, don't have the privilege to be able to sit down and discuss all things to do with career building or entrepreneurship with their ex-employers. But that's something that I have, and I thought it would be great to kind of let you into this conversation. So Malik, thank you so much for joining us here at Golden Africa.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Yeah. Before we kind of get into your mindset right now, I want to get the people to understand who you are and what has made you who you are.
Yeah.
So in terms of your backstory, what kind of highlights do you have that have really made you who you are?
Yeah. I mean, of course, if you've heard me, anyone who have heard my story or speaking, when I'm sharing my entrepreneurship journey, I always say that it started from Nyamirambo because that's where I grew up. And it's a neighborhood that shaped me, give me all the inspiration to become an entrepreneur. And the other thing again is that it depends on how you look about entrepreneurship. So a lot of people think about entrepreneurship as someone who runs their own business. But the biggest essence of entrepreneurship is the mindset. So what does that mean? It means that you could actually have an entrepreneurship mindset, but not necessarily run your own business or have your own company, but still work with other people or for other people, but applying the entrepreneurship mindset. So I think for me, that is the number one thing that characterizes me. It's really how I do things, how I approach things. I try to always apply the entrepreneurship mindset. And the other thing again is that I probably started this mindset when I was young. Since the early stage when I was in high school, probably in primary school, I would try always to find where is the opportunity for me to win, right? Like in primary school, I had a game break, and literally I would let people play my game break for 10 francs for one game. In high school, I used to sell juice and biscuit. So I've always really trying to innovate and try to find what is it in for me. When I see something, I'm like, oh yeah, this is fantastic. So how do I get the most of it? Yeah.
I think we're very similar in that regard. I think I remember back in primary school, I was also selling lollipops and
exactly
stuff like that.
You know.
Yeah, there was a lot of there was a huge gap in the market and you could make good margins.
And when you start, you don't stop, right?
Yeah,
if you start your first profits, I'm telling you, you're not gonna stop. It's done.
Yeah. I like how you're saying that entrepreneurship is basically a mindset and not everyone has to apply it in the sense of taking all the risk and having your own business. But you're a person who's doing both. You're doing entrepreneurship like as a practice, as business. You're doing it in a freelance way. You're doing it as a person who's like your job is educating other entrepreneurs. So you've kind of found a 360 way of navigating this. Would you change anything about the way you've formed your career today?
I don't regret anything, so therefore I would not change anything. I don't think it's really easy to do multiple things. Because everything you do really usually should give it 100%. And I agree with this. I agree with the theory. So now, because I don't give any of my venture 100%, sometimes I see faults. I see places where I'll be like, oh, if I would have been on this 100%, I'll have made it work much better. I know a lot of people don't see Elon Musk as an inspiration, but this man is an inspiration to me. He's a billionaire running, I don't know, top 3 most successful companies in the world. And then for me, when I look at him, it's like, if Elon Musk can do it, he's a human being, I can do it, right? And then I try to look at other people who are exactly doing the same as well, like trying to juggle different things. But again, you cannot do this by yourself. So when you're trying to do so many things, you need to understand your strength and weakness, and then build a strong team around you that can support you to make sure that whatever you're not giving you're not giving 100%. There is someone else that is actually putting in the rest of the time you needed to put in there.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about that. I'm also someone who is chasing a few dreams at the same time.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who are watching are also similar in the sense. Some of us have been called people who are disorganized, we don't know what we want, we're scatterbrained, or what's that statement? A jack of all trades is a master of none. But then obviously we now know that there's a fuller statement, but it's still better than a master of one. So what other tips would you kind of give, especially to young people in their early 20s who are starting out to build their portfolio of businesses and projects? Like, what would you say that the mistakes that you've basically made that you want them to learn from?
I mean, first of all, maybe to start, I think I just want to iterate that it's really okay not to know what you want. Yeah. I find it okay. Like, I don't think I should know everything I need in my life. You just have to figure it out, right? I think for me, the biggest problem is that when you don't know, that you don't know, right? So some people are like, okay, I don't know what I want, but I know that I don't know, right? And some people do not know what they want, but they actually don't know that they don't know, right? I think for me, that's where I find a problem. But as soon as you know, it's okay to try out so many things, right? It's okay to try it out until you find actually what works for you. And I admire people who really, in terms of advice, I admire people who never shy away to shoot their shot and say, I want to do this, let me give it a try. And if it failure is part of life, there is nothing that tells you that whatever you touch becomes gold, right? You would touch a few things, some of will fail, and you will touch other few things, and they will be successful. So in fact, the matter of fact is that the more you try, the more you see what works, right? The more you ask yourself so many questions about what you don't know, actually the more you figure out. So I think that would be, for me, the most important advice I will give in that perspective.
Right. So is it really failing though? I kind of hold the sentiment or the understanding that you're either winning or you're kind of learning rather than failing. Yes, it could be like you close that business. Maybe a lot of the times also, you have to consider some of us fail the ideas by not executing to the level that they should.
I mean, yes, it's definitely learning. That's the most positive way to look at it. But again, it's failure in the sense that you invested your time, you invested your money, right? So that's what I'm trying to say, it's failure. But when you fail always, or when something doesn't go the way you planned, then one thing is like, what it's to always try to see what went wrong. What would I have done differently, so that you don't make the same mistake again. Right. So I agree with you. It's more of learnings than failure in that perspective.
And you also kind of touched on shooting your shot. Right. In this dynamic, you shot your shot. I want to first of all understand the thought process behind that, and then also proceed to understand how you navigate networking as you build your career, as you build your businesses.
I'm actually a horrible person when it comes to networking. And every time when I say this, people are like, no, Malik, you are lying. And I go to networking events and I stand behind, or I try to find people that I know, so that I stay in my comfort zone. Because one of the things again is that, which I should not advise people to be like me, is I hate rejection. I really don't cope well with the rejection. Now I've learned a lot of mechanism to cope with rejection, but it hit me hard. And that's how I think. That's on the personal note, that's how I find networking. Because if I see you and I come to talk to you, and you push me away, I'm like, oh gosh.
People might misunderstand this.
So in that perspective, in that perspective, really what I do is, one, people should network. Let me start from there. But you should find techniques that works for you. Like for me, the most technique that works well for me is I introduce myself, I tell you what I do, and then ask you for contact. Because also I know if we're in a networking event or in any other classic event, there's 100 or 200 people. So it would be very rare that you remember me, unless if I'm so great at pitching myself and really punching so hard for you to remember me. But 90% you are more likely to not remember about me. So now if I have your contact, then I would reach out later and say, hey, my name is this person. We met at this event. We talked a little bit about this. This was really interesting. I would like to follow up. And then really be very articulate on what I need from you. It's not just let's meet for coffee, because everyone wants to meet for coffee, right? To say like, please let's meet for A, B, C, D reasons. So now if you respond, exactly, if then you respond, I will see that there is actually a chance for me to get to you, or to then get my deal as I wanted. So yeah, to really conclude on that, I would say it's really great at networking, but don't try to do it in a universal way. Try to find a way that works for you, like what makes you comfortable. Because if you're uncomfortable, you're not even going to manage to sell yourself, right? So yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay, that's in the sense of like a networking event, right? What about where there are different dynamics at play? So it's not necessarily in an instance where you're needing funding or you're looking for a partner. So you're also networking to find an employee and vice versa, right? Like how do you then navigate across the different, those two dynamics?
Yes, I think that's a great question, actually. I think when you are trying to find employees, it's a bit different when you're trying to sell yourself so that we can get money, or if friendship or future partners. In that perspective, again, is to, I think I really find it easier when you are very articulate on what you need from someone, right? Say when you are discussing, and let's say an example, we talked a few days before I hire you, and by the time we were discussing, I could really see how you would be very you would be impactful in our organization, right? And then you'll have different conversation with someone, and then you get to that point and say, hey, I would actually want to hire you, or would you be interested working with us, or would you be interested in exploring this position, right? My best hire I have so far are the people that I randomly met. And by randomly meeting, we have a conversation, and then I analyze your thought process. So in that case, again, is if you go in a wide space or when you are meeting various people, I think the key essence there is to really go without any expectation. So try to just speak freely and then listen carefully to see what you can get from there.
You know, I find this so fascinating because I don't know so many bosses that actually pitch themselves to employees, to potential employees. Would you say this is something that has set your company completely apart from competition, for instance? Because I know a lot of bosses and business owners, they operate from a sense of ego, you know, like you need me, I don't need you. And
I mean, that's a wrong perspective. You need each other.
It's an exchange of value.
It's an exchange, because you are the one to sign the paycheck. It doesn't mean that you don't need the person, right? You need that person to hit your KPIs. You need that person to hit your goals. So I would definitely, especially with my business with my brother, I would say that the fact that we got to find the right people is one of the things that set us apart as a multimedia company, because 90 or 80% of our employees are the people that we went for. We say, oh, you are doing something great here. We want to have you in our company. And in that case, my exam or test for you will be a few things that I didn't see in you. But in also that case, I give you time to interview me, understand who I am. And if you tell me no, I don't take it as an offense, because I will also have told someone else no, if you see what I mean.
Okay, I like that. Recently, I attended a family graduation dinner. The graduate was graduating with a doctorate degree, right? He's in medicine. And his parent was giving a speech and was saying, oh, I'm so lucky. All my children, yes, their kids, pursued sciences. One of them almost went down the drain because she almost pursued marketing as a career. And he's like, oh, Murabizi, in marketing, there's no money whatsoever. I know. That was my reaction exactly. I was
Yeah.
trying not to scream. I was laughing so hard. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get exposed.
Yeah.
Because I'm building a career within communications, within marketing,
Yeah.
and so are you.
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
in terms of these misconceptions around this sphere, this world of marketing,
Yeah.
especially in Rwanda,
Yeah.
like what do you have to say to that?
I mean, even before I share my personal perspective here, for a matter of fact, there is a study I was reading last week, literally, by Rwanda Development Board about skills in Rwanda. And the biggest gap in the skills in Rwanda are into technical skills, right? It's not a lot about medical or engineering. There is also a gap there, but the chains of employment, or most employment, is in technical school, in technical skills. So we're talking about TVET, basically. You're talking about marketing, design, photography, hospitality and tourism. These jobs that actually people think that they don't pay. There is a huge gap on the market for that. So which means that whoever want to do it, they should do that, because it's scientifically proven with a study that there is a gap on this. So that's fact number one. So fact number two, on the global stage, many countries are adopting TVET, technical vocational education, because that's where most people get employed, right? And that's really very, very scientifically proven in research.
The numbers don't lie.
On my personal perspective, I don't think you should really dictate what someone should go to school for, right? Because to start with, that person, when you are a parent, at least you pay school fee, but you don't study on behalf of that person. So they struggle by themselves, etc., etc. And then third, when they graduate, you're not the one who go to find them jobs. So they go to find jobs by themselves. So you might actually put yourself in a time when people spend a lot of time complaining about what their parents push them to do because they don't see any result from it, right? But really coming back specifically to marketing and creative industry, actually the chance we have here is that it's what you have. It's your brain, right? It's your enthusiasm on the things. The degree or a paper comes last. Most of people get hired without a degree in marketing and communication because of what they bring on table. And then maybe to end, if you see now the new waves of AI, you'd actually see that so many things are being replaced by robots. AI is even also doing copywriting, by the way. But every perspective you look at, creative marketing, branding, it's gonna be on demand. And another thing is, these are one of the skills that are human, that touch human behavior. So anything that really touch human behavior, it's likely to go nowhere.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and such a beautiful segue. I was going to ask you straight into what you think about the creative industry, the creative space, right? Starting with what it takes to kind of manage creatives, what kind of work environments to cultivate in order for your team of creatives to thrive.
So more than 10 years ago, I know, in 29, yes, it's about almost 12 years ago now. I was very fortunate to work with an organization that really wanted to work with creatives in Rwanda. And then one of the tasks they gave me a task of giving them a database of every single creative in the country, like photographers, videographer, illustrator. I can tell you that time, any category I will write, there's no category that had more than 5 people. I could not find 5 illustrators. It was very hard to find 5 really great photographers, etc. So today, if you give me the assignment, I would say no to the assignment.
It's too many.
Because I cannot actually do the list and manage to do the list successfully. So what does that mean? It means that these things is on demand, right?
Growing.
We are growing. And you can see it. You can see this. I think now majority of my followers, the people I follow on Instagram and TikTok, they are content creators. every day I see a new cool kid on the block doing dance, doing something. And it's, by the way, it hurts my feelings when I see people trying to bully them online because of an English mistake, etc. I'm like, yes, maybe the English is not correct, but they're doing something great. So could we actually see how we give them constructive feedback so that they can improve, rather than just laughing at their English or any other thing, any other mistake they are making in that perspective. And then that's what we are trying to do as well in our creative agency, is that we are trying to make sure that we nurture the talent, right? If you come to work with us doing a particular skill, how do we make sure that in the next 2 years you've learned and you've improved? And we actually have a lot of cool stuff coming. Maybe one day I'll ask you to invite me so that I can disclose that. Yeah, but we're really trying to build a creative community. For us, it's not about competition. It's about how do we complement each other,
and how do we collaborate?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So in this, okay, you kind of touched on how shallow the audience can be in terms of not necessarily receiving us as people in our entirety. Also understanding we come from different contexts and whatnot. Not understanding that we have a lot to bring to the table rather than just my accent, right? Or just how I look. If I have dreadlocks, or if I'm wearing a suit and tie, or if I'm wearing sweatpants, which takes me to that exactly. Some of the cons of working within the creative industry, especially in Rwanda, being a very conservative type of country, are like the shallowness, right? Even you, I know, have experienced this, where you go into a board meeting, everyone is suited up, and you're in sweatpants, or you're in all black, or stuff like that. Like, how do you kind of navigate an industry like that from the perspective of you as a leader, but then also how do you cultivate the right environment for your creatives as well within your business?
I mean, maybe starting from our company. So one thing is that we are a company of almost no rules, right? Of course, we do have rules. They are not written somewhere, but we try to freestyle everything, and see what happens from the freestyling, and then how can you correct it, or how then you create a rule, but from just letting things flow, and see where there are faults in that perspective. So that's one. And then two is, who cares about outfit, really? Why should you care about outfit? People need to understand that creativity means doing something different. So therefore, you have no right to question, right? Because if you hire me, or if you see me as a creative, then don't question how I wear, right? If I have done something that you think it's off the culture, it means I'm trying to be creative, right? And then look at that culture as a set stone, but don't look at what I have done as is off the culture. Now I'm talking about the Umucho gang, right? So really, it's don't take things personal. We are trying to create. Someone is trying to be different, and that's what creativity means. And for matter of fact, again, if people continue to be this aggressive, is actually going to limit creativity. Because someone will be like, oh, I want to do this, but I'm scared of what people would think about, right? Or I want to go this place, but I have dreadlocks, and then people would look at me differently. So we really have to think that as a young country, we need to grow, and we need to let people try things and fail.
From what I'm understanding, if you're basically building a business for creatives, or you're trying to collaborate with creatives, you're reaching out to them because of how creative they are, how rainbow colored they are. So boxing them in is just doing you a disservice, you know? At the end of the day, you're trying to get someone creative so vibrant, and you want them to fit in a particular mold. So like, it's counterproductive at the end.
You know what I tell people most of the time is that, so I say, okay, we need a creative company. Your creative company should have a creative director, a copywriter, a graphic designer, and a photographer, for example. And then day one, you give them a creative brief. They're like, oh, no, we don't want this. Please do this and do this and do this. You give them a design. It's like, no, I don't like this photo. Please, can you take another photo? I'm like, hey, please. You hired the creative agency, And your requirement was, I want a creative director. So now why do you want to become a creative director? Right?
That part.
You hired a graphic designer for the graphic designer to design because they have the skills and you do not have the skill.
Let them do their job.
Right? So now what do you want? Why do you want to design? Because if you could have designed, you would have done that internally. Ooh. So it's again really how, and what I'm talking about is I'm not saying that on the creative side we're always right. We can be wrong, but then do not direct people in a sense of, oh, I don't like this because of your personal feeling. Give them a reason. Say, this is not working because of A, B, C, D reason. Can you go back and explore a different route? Right? So in that case, and now if it's a creative director that provided you a mood board, they're going to go back and say, this mood board did not work because of A, B, C, D reason. So how else do I create a mood board for my clients? Right? If you say, you don't think the colors are working, maybe because the fonts are small or something. When you explain your because or your why, and then the person who is working on that artwork would understand and then go to adjust, right?
It's nothing against welcoming feedback. It's more like, are you giving feedback and that's it, or are you trying to do my job?
And how are you giving the feedback? It really matter. But also on our creative side as well, we should not take feedback personal. Right? Because I know a lot of creative are artists. And an artist, when they create something, it's just beautiful. Do not touch it. You know?
It's an extension of themselves. Almost.
Exactly, yes. So give yourself time to listen to the client and welcome feedback as well.
As we reach the tail end of this conversation, unfortunately, I know a lot of people who look up to you and follow you just so that they can learn from your advice, your tweets, your controversial tweets and whatnot. And if, let's say, it's kind of a challenge in a way. I won't say if you were to start your career all over again, what will you change? It's more like, if you were to start your career right now, in the environment that we have right now, if you were 23, you're starting out your career, what would you do in order to set yourself up for success?
Oh gosh, I'll be scared.
Yeah?
I'll be really scared.
Really?
Because when we started, when we started, the competition was not this high, right? But now there's so many brilliant minds. I look at them like, well, if we have worked together 10 years ago, I would have not gotten this promotion because of who you are. So, the reason I'm saying this is because I see a lot of really great mind. And I think at my early stage, I would have invested more in my education. When I'm talking about investing more in my education, it's not necessary for my education to go and get a certificate in a particular place. It's more about the books I have read, maybe training I'll have done, etc., to really make sure that I have enough experience. Because you find that when you're a junior somewhere in a workplace, or we have less a working experience, you also have a lot of time on your plate. So it means that you have more time to learn and explore different things. And then the more you grow, the less time you have, because you have more responsibilities. You are juggling with 3, 4, 5 work assignments. You have a family to deal with, and you need to be a friend to someone, etc. So the responsibilities are really a lot, and you have less time of learning. And then I think really in a creative industry, one of the things that it's very important, it's learning. Is you need to understand, you need to have time to see who is doing something differently than what is the new tools that are available now. There's a lot of things to learn. And if you don't have time, it doesn't go well. So I wish I would, that's really one particular thing I wish I would have done.
Yeah, and that's what you would do in this particular industry. Something I would also kind of add on to that is as you're learning, right, as you're growing yourself, because the creative industry, the marketing world, it's always changing.
Yes.
Trends are always changing. That's one. And then also you mentioned AI. In order for your job not to be replaced by AI, let's say you're a copywriter that's only used to a particular type of style or language. First of all, you're not adjusting to the different markets that you're communicating to. Another thing is your job will literally be easily replicated by a machine learning, right? But if you add your own personal touch, you kind of try to cultivate your own authenticity, in a sense that you're making yourself stand out even with all the competition, right? And standing out means you stick to your values, you have a particular language. Let's say you have a particular market that you're so good at tapping into that other companies need to tap into you to tap into those markets, right? So I think there's definitely a lot of ways you can stand up from the crowd. And also something that I will say, even if there's a lot of people doing it, a lot of people are doing it the backward way, right? We have a lot of people who are very, very grown and are not changing in any way, who are still doing marketing, right? So it takes a sharp mind, a sharp-witted person, and an ever-changing person to be able to stand out, you know? I might say something slightly controversial, but not really. This whole idea of, oh, it doesn't matter what I dress like or whatever, as long as what I bring to the table is something, you know, of substance. I'm not necessarily agreeing with the traditional people who are saying, oh, because you have dreadlocks, you're counted out completely, because that's a bias. That's an unnecessary bias. But what I will say to the young people who are watching is, at least partner up with someone who's a bit more acceptable in a sense, right? Because in some senses, right, you might be in a situation, in a deal where it's not necessarily about your business's qualification that is taking you out, but rather someone's unnecessary biases, right? Let them find out later that at the end of the day, the person who did this incredible thing is someone who you probably have judged from the get-go, right? Unfortunately, this is something that we have to do as people who kind of stand out from the norm. This is something that I've had to do. In some instances, I have someone on my team who I go with for meetings, right? So that they're not like biased against me because I'm a woman or I'm a hijabi. There's a lot of different biases that could basically prevent me from securing the bag. And so unfortunately, you kind of have to play the game.
I mean, two things I can say, right? It's not even about dress code. The most important is about it. Really, it's more about your strength and weakness, right? So if you sit and do your SWOT analysis for you personally or your business, you'll find where you're strong and then where you're weak. And it's really more about how do you then what are you doing on your weakness, right? Or threats. Exactly. How do you compensate for that? It could be dress code, it could be communication, it could be pricing, etc. So it's really more in that particular sense. And then quite often, as you said, you'd find that you'd have to compensate with another human being that can help you to go to basically look stronger. That's one particular thing I would comment on what you said. And then really, and the last one is values. So value are very important. So what are your values? Like, how do you make sure that you don't compromise for your own values? Because it's very important. You would see people, and for matter of fact, Sarah, you are the person I really know that sticks to their values. Really. I can give 20 examples here, but I know you'll fire me on your podcast.
Please
so
do it.
So yeah. So I've went like yes.
Where are the words? You're a communicator.
Let me keep this for ourselves.
Okay. No, I definitely agree with that. There are instances where if you see that you're actually compromising on your own values, at the end of the day, if it's someone who doesn't want to work with a hijabi, you have no business trying to give them business as well, because it's an exchange of value. If you're working with someone who's against women being in carpentry, for instance, you have no business doing something for someone like that, right? Because it will backfire at the end of the day. Okay. It was great having you. Thank you so much
very much. This was really great.
Thanks.